On December 13th in 2019, we were introduced to our new game mode, Railjack. And to say that everyone had varying opinions and experiences on it would be putting it lightly. It's almost immediately turned into another conclave, with a very small portion of the community absolutely loving it, with a massive portion of the community absolutely hating it. For most players, the only redeeming feature was the node Guyane point, which, in the Veil, offered some quick and easy XP and credits. But excluding that, it was hated. One of the big issues surrounding Railjack was that it was garbage. No, I'm kidding. But it was a content island, almost entirely separate from the actual game, made it feel not rewarding at all to even begin playing it. Enter the new update, Railjack Proxima, which has promised to rework and fix issues that the community complained about while adding new promised features into the Railjack content. After the first week messing around with it, I thought we should go through what is new with this update and see what works and what doesn't, and whether you yourself, if you haven't tried the update out, should give it a go. Just quickly before we get into the main part of the video, if you're enjoying these videos, don't forget to hit subscribe. Only a small percentage of viewers are subscribed. I know every YouTuber asks you to do this, but it really helps, so if you could just check if you are subscribed, that would be awesome. I hope you enjoyed the video. The big selling point of this update was a variance on what we have previously seen in Railjack. A Corpus variance with new nodes and tile sets on new planets, as well as that bringing along some new Corpus enemies as well. Essentially, very similar to previous Railjack, but instead we have a Corpus twist on it. I feel like I may have seen something like this happen before, and it ended up being a little bit overused and making people a little bit upset. Nah, maybe I'm just overthinking. Nevertheless, there are now 3 quote-unquote new planets for you to explore in Railjack with a new Corpus twist. We have Venus, Pluto, and Neptune. So, not really new planets, cause, who wants to think of a new name and a slightly different look for a planet? Personally, I'm hoping that in the future they add actually unique planets to Railjack that allow the Railjack game mode itself to flourish more, instead of locking themselves to the same planets and looks that they have done. They also removed a few nodes that were frequently overplayed like Guyane Point to also increase and encourage variety playing. Along with these new planets, however, DE has finally decided to bring us some new, unique, entertaining, fun and exciting mission types. Oh wait, this is just defense, right? Yeah, what happened? So among quote-unquote these new missions, we received Exterminate, Defense, or Fix, like from the most recent event, as well as Volatile, which is a completely new game mode. I personally think Exterminate and Defense feels completely useless. The only thing Railjack is used for in these missions are glorified loading screens, with a tiny bit of action, till you get into the ship where the objective is, and then it plays like you're just on a normal mission, completely negating the fact that it's a Railjack mission to begin with, which makes me kinda sad. I feel like they could have done a lot more of this. At least for the defense, they could have made it so that the ship you enter also needs to be defended. This would encourage group play, having 2 people outside flying the ship to defend you, while you and someone else are inside protecting something. I feel like that would be fun. The new crewmate system could serve to fill the void if you're a solo player also. Unfortunately, what we ended up with makes it feel like Railjack isn't actually even needed for these nodes. The Orfix mission, on the other hand, I believe is a great addition as a permanent mission type. I do believe it should be made endless instead of the mission being capped at 36, as it would be a really freaking fun endless mission. Either way though, the Orfix nodes are incredibly fun. Guaranteed that they can be a little bit buggy and require more gear than most missions, but it is a ton of fun with some friends. The last of the new game modes is Volatile. A very simple game mode, but something new nevertheless. The general goal of it is just like the others, loading into the ship, and then all you need to do is keep this pressure gauge that appears within the white box. While it's within that, your mission progresses forward. Popping orange vents around the objective relieves pressure, making sure that the pressure never gets too high but stays within the box shown. Engineers will sometimes come to stop you by cooling it off. Killing them before they get there will prevent this. But all these game modes and pretty areas don't really mean much if there isn't really any good rewards. I mean, that's why the original Railjack struggled. There wasn't a reason to farm it excluding maybe experience. So the new update offers some new juicy loot. Coming in first, we have an entirely new weapon. Well, I mean, sort of. Maybe kind of just like a reskin of the Penta? We have the Carmen Penta, a variant with some slightly different stats. Either way, it's something fun to farm up and something nice and shiny to get your hands on. A little fun fact actually, this weapon was originally locked to only China players until this update, so the more you know. Accompanying this is the Attribution, which is the pistol that was handed out during TennoCon last year, only now it's actually farmable. I can vouch for this weapon. If you did not get this, try to farm it up. It is 100% worth it. As for farming these two, Attribution drops from Venus caches while running Railjack missions, and the Penta drops from caches while doing Pluto or the Veil. Along with this, we have a new Railjack specific sentinel, the Nautilus. This Sentinel is focused around Railjack, having both its specific mods being to do with Railjack repair as well as grouping enemies together. As for farming this, if you want to obtain it, you need to open caches on Neptune ice mines on Railjack. They also decided to drop some new mods. A Warframe stance called the Votive Onslaught. I'm very happy that we finally have a new Warframe stance, to be honest. And we've got two mods, one for primary and one for secondary. They do the same thing, they're both forced / procs upon hitting an impact status proc. There is some very interesting stuff that you can do with this. A good example is the Kuvang new core with its high status chance. If you make it an impact new core, allowing the new core to proc constantly bleeds everywhere, and it's awesome. Something 100% worth messing around with and giving a go. Something that got a lot of players excited, but on the other side of the same coin upset the entire Relic community, is that with this new Railjack update, we also now have 2 permanently unvaulted sets. That's right, permanent. Nyx and Haiku and Skindo, as well as Valkyria with Venko and Kernos, have all been permanently unvaulted now with the ability to get these relics from Railjack. So if you've missed these frames before, now's your chance to go farm them. Or you could simply wait for the prices to die down. Either way, a new interesting way for DE to make things more accessible with everyone making their own opinions of it. For specific changes regarding your Railjack directly, the modding system has been completely reworked to reflect what modding is like in the rest of the game. And oh my god, is it a good change. Not only does it make it much easier for anyone to understand, it reduces the amount that needs to be learned and makes modding your ship just way more accessible for new players. Just getting into Railjack, which is great, as the curve to getting to Railjack wasn't really the nicest. Due to the changes to this system, some mods were retired, meaning that they were completely removed from the game. Anyone who had said mods were compensated with Endo, alongside the massive influx of Endo people got when everyone's Dirac was also converted into Endo for this switch. But due to this, that means that your ship's health and armor might be a bit shoddy, but that's okay, because we have a new part for the Railjack called plating, and it's essentially the armor of the Railjack. This part will dictate your health and armor of your Railjack, so going and getting a good one would be your first goal when you decide to take on this update. With all those changes as well, the reactors having their primary purpose be increasing your avionic capacity is kind of useless now. So they've changed this also, allowing reactors of different tiers to instead change the strength, duration, or effect of your mods across your entire ship build. It's a big change, but one that makes these things flow really well into one another and makes it feel much more of a smooth design. To make gameplay while on the ship more smooth in multiplayer, they've also changed it so that every player has their very own resource pool instead of using the host. Previously, it wasn't uncommon for someone in a public mission to use all your ammo up and then it just screws you over. Well, no more. Now, you can only shoot your own ammo. Others in the ship have their own resources and ammo piles at their disposal. Less time needed for you to go to the forge to fix things when others screw you over. Speaking of the forge though, we now have a new building option, and a pretty unique one at that. Forge can now build Warframe energy that immediately gets sent to all players. I personally really like this, and I think that if more work is put into Railjack, this could really make the Railjack the heavily team-based mode that they always wanted it to be, with players communicating and helping each other out with the pilot, engineer, gunner, and explorer default roles that became meta at the start of the OG Railjack. When OG Railjack was originally teased and shown off, we were told some pretty incredible things, some of which have still not been added to the game, but we finally got one of the big ones, and that is the ability to use our liches as members on board our ships, giving a purpose to all those random liches that you've got lying around. When you upgrade your new command intrinsics, you gain the ability to add crew to your ship, to a total of +3. At level 8, you get the ability to use liches. However, prior to this, you can also now go to Ticker on Fortuna and hire yourself some crewmates. Crewmates have things that they specialize in, so checking in with Ticker from time to time to get strong crewmates is very helpful. Once you have crewmates, lich or otherwise, you can assign them roles whether it be pilot, gunner, engineer, or defender. You can also give them weapons from your inventory to use, finally putting to use all those collected weapons that you probably only use once in a blue moon. You can also fashion them and make them look all pretty, which given people were collecting liches specifically just for cool names for Railjack, giving people the ability to color their crew members has made a lot of people happy. However, I do have to put out there that the difference between the 3 factions and how good their fashion looks is like almost criminal. Like, how are you telling me this is okay? What's the point of the other two now? Lastly, with this new system, like I mentioned before, these crew members have stats. Well, as you level up your commander intrinsics, you get the ability to train crew members. It's not as cool as it could be with actual training, it's like just a menu. But nevertheless, you can increase crew members' stats up to +3 at max, allowing you to sort of control what your crew members are good at just a little bit more. Those were kind of the main big things in the update. Covered most of the super important bits, but they also added a wonderful array of much needed quality of life changes that have made Railjack so much smoother. First off, Pustules, Copernics, Trachons, Kesslers, Bracoids, and Fresnels have all been removed from the blueprints and buildables and have been replaced with one singular universal resource called Tick or Plate. This is fantastic news. It simplifies things so much. It reduces the grind in a game mode that people really don't like to hopefully encourage these people to come back and give it a shot. I personally really like this change. I always felt like all the random new resources were a little bit forced and rushed into the game, and this change really fixes that. However, these resources have not been deleted from your inventory, because if you worked hard to farm tons of them and then they got removed, it would be a little bit yikes. Yeah, no, instead they are still there and can be used for the Hemleth. There is a chance these resources will have added uses later in future updates. Speaking of being prepared for an update, anyone who had built and used Railjack a fair bit before this update were given rewards and compensation for the time invested into a changing game mode, and I reckon this was a really good move on DE's part. Just a nice thank you to those that gave a new game mode a good go instead of trying it for 5 minutes, which, I'm looking at 99% of the player base here. It's impossible to make people happy. I feel bad for DE sometimes. Another thing that was reset were intrinsics. For those that were interested in Commander, this gave everyone the opportunity to put a lot of points into it straight away and see what it's all about. People who had 10 across the board could get Commander to rank 9 and only need to sacrifice 1 rank from another category. Really nice that they allowed this, as I don't know if I personally would have bothered to farm up all the intrinsics to test it. The last 2 little changes of importance were some minor interior ship design changes, making it easier to move around. Not gonna lie, after playing in it for like 30 minutes, I don't know how I actually managed with the old ship design and how clunky it was. And lastly, finally, stamina has been removed. How awesome is that? Sprint is now unlimited and base speed of all ships have been increased. It's almost like we went through this exact thing many years ago, back in the day when we had stamina for Warframes or something. Would have thought this would have been kind of self-explanatory, but I guess not. Overall, my opinions on this update is that it was really good. Although incredibly buggy, as is all Warframe updates, a long list of quality of life updates can make my day any day. A simplified system to make it easier to understand for newer players, more variants in fun modes to try out and enjoy, and some new gear. Genuinely very happy with it. I still feel like Railjack is a content island, however, it is still much better than what it was, and if they were to continue with 1 or 2 more big updates like this, then it might start to feel like an actual main part of the game that people will hate much less. That's gonna be it for me though today. What did you think of the newest updates? Do you agree with my point of view, or did you take the update a little bit differently? Let me know in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Much love, and Robo out.